I declare the winner of the 2012 Brownlow Medal, Jobe Watson of the Essendon Football Club.
September 24th, 2012. The AFL's biggest stars gathered at the Crown Casino for football's most prestigious individual award, the Brownlow Medal. The award given to the player judged best in the competition. As the votes were read out, one man slowly pulled away from the field, Essendon captain Jobe Watson. By the end of the night, Watson had polled 30 votes, finishing 4 clear of both Trent Cotchin and Sam Mitchell. He was officially crowned the best player in the AFL. The moment seemed perfect. A father-son bomber following in the footsteps of his legendary father, Tim Watson, an admired captain leading one of football's biggest clubs, a Brownlow medalist. But 4 years later, something unprecedented would happen. Jobe Watson would hand the medal back, and the AFL would find itself at the centre of one of the biggest controversies in its history. By 2012, Jobe Watson had become one of the most respected players in the AFL. After arriving at Essendon under the father-son rule, he developed into one of the league's premier midfielders. Tough, consistent, and widely respected by teammates and opponents alike. His 2012 season was exceptional. Watson averaged over 27 disposals per game, captained Essendon to the finals, earned All-Australian honours, won the club best and fairest, and entered Brownlow night as one of the favourites. When the count concluded, the margin wasn't even close. 4 votes separated Watson from Richmond captain Trent Cotchin and Hawthorn star Sam Mitchell, who tied for second place. At the time, almost nobody questioned the result. Jobe Watson was the Brownlow medalist, or so everyone thought. Just months later, everything changed. In early 2013, investigations began into Essendon's controversial supplements program. Questions emerged regarding substances administered to players during the 2012 season. What initially appeared to be an internal football issue quickly escalated into one of the biggest scandals Australian sport had ever seen. The investigation involved the AFL, ASADA, WADA, multiple courts, and eventually the Court of Arbitration for Sport. For years, the case dragged on. Some rulings cleared the players, other rulings overturned those decisions. The saga became incredibly complicated, with legal appeals stretching over several seasons, and hanging over everything was one uncomfortable question: what would happen to Jobe Watson's Brownlow medal? The Brownlow medal is awarded to the fairest and best player in the AFL, and under AFL rules, players who are suspended are ineligible to win. Normally that's straightforward. A player gets suspended during the season and cannot receive the award, but this situation was different. Watson had already won the medal. Years had passed, the votes had been counted, the speeches had been made, the medal had been presented. So if the players were eventually found guilty and suspended years later, should the AFL go back and erase history? There was no precedent for something quite like this. Fans became divided. Some argued the rules were simple. A suspended player cannot win the Brownlow. Others believed Watson had legitimately been judged the best player in 2012 and should keep the medal regardless of what happened afterward. The debate became one of the most polarising issues the sport had ever seen. In January 2016, the Court of Arbitration for Sport overturned previous findings and ruled against the Essendon players. 34 current and former Bombers were suspended, among them Jobe Watson. Suddenly the AFL faced an enormous decision. Could a suspended player remain a Brownlow medalist? For months, speculation dominated football media. Then, before the AFL Commission could make its final ruling, Watson made a decision of his own. On November 11, 2016, he announced he would hand back the medal. 4 days later, the AFL officially ruled him ineligible. The 2012 Brownlow medal was stripped from Jobe Watson. For the first time in AFL history, a Brownlow winner had lost the award after receiving it. The AFL then awarded the medal retrospectively to the next highest vote getters, Trent Cotchin and Sam Mitchell. The 2012 Brownlow medal suddenly had 2 new winners. The AFL believed it was following its own rules. A suspended player is ineligible, simple, but many fans didn't see it that way. Critics argued that Watson had never been suspended during the 2012 season itself. The suspension came years later. Others pointed out that Brownlow votes are based on performances on the field, and the umpires had already judged Watson to be the best player that year. Supporters of the AFL's decision argued the opposite. If any player is suspended for that season, regardless of when the suspension occurs, then the rules must apply equally. Otherwise, the integrity of the award would be compromised. Then there was another uncomfortable question. What about Trent Cotchin and Sam Mitchell? Both had exceptional seasons. Both finished second on 26 votes. Neither had done anything wrong. Yet some fans viewed them as replacement winners rather than true Brownlow medalists. They had won football's highest individual honour, but the circumstances ensured their achievement would forever be linked to controversy. Lost between the legal battles and the media coverage was the human element. Jobe Watson had become the public face of the Essendon playing group during one of the most turbulent periods in AFL history. Whether people believed the punishment was justified or not, there was little disagreement on one point. Watson handled the situation with remarkable dignity. Rather than forcing the AFL into a lengthy public battle over the medal, he voluntarily returned it. For many supporters, that gesture only increased the sympathy they felt for him. Even today, years later, opinions remain divided. Some believe Watson should be recognised as the rightful winner. Others maintain that the AFL made the only decision possible under its rules. The fact that the debate still exists more than a decade later shows how significant the controversy became. To conclude, the Brownlow medalists survived world wars, rule changes, expansions, and more than a century of AFL history. Yet no Brownlow has ever generated a controversy quite like 2012. A winner who lost the award, two players who gained it 4 years later, a supplement saga that divided an entire sport, and a question that AFL fans still argue about today. Was Jobe Watson unfairly stripped of football's highest individual honour, or did the AFL simply follow its rules? The question depends on who you ask, but one thing is undeniable. The 2012 Brownlow medal remains the most controversial Brownlow in AFL history.